Most retirees with $1.5 million saved think their portfolio supports about $5,000 a month. And the fact is they're not wrong, because that's what the 4% rule gives you. But Karen and Brian wanted to spend $10,000. They wanted to spend double that. And when they walked into my office last spring, the honest answer was yes, they could. Not because of what they had. The answer came down to 3 decisions they hadn't been thinking of. The same 3 decisions most retirees with their numbers miss completely. Karen is 60. She just retired from 28 years as a senior nurse. And Brian is 63 and just retired from program management at a tech firm. Combined, they had $1.5 million saved plus a paid off house worth about $700,000. And they also had Social Security coming in for both of them. What they hadn't told me at first was that they had already given notice. They had already turned down a phased retirement offer. They were sitting across from me asking if they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. And so I want to walk you through Karen and Brian's plan today. If you're approaching retirement or you're already in it, there's a very good chance you're about to make the same 3 mistakes, and almost nobody talks about them together. My name is Chris McClure, and I've been a financial advisor for 31 years, and I put these videos together about once a week, honest information for high net worth families who've worked too hard to leave money on the table. When retirees ask about the 4% rule, they don't really see what the real question is when they ask about it. $10,000 a month sounds aggressive against $1.5 million portfolio. At 4%, that portfolio supports about $5,000 a month, half of what Karen and Brian wanted to spend. And if you run the math the way most retirees do, the answer is obvious: they can't afford it. But the math is missing the most important window in their entire retirement, and it's called the bridge years. When Karen and Brian first walked in, they had a plan. They were going to claim Social Security as early as possible. Brian wanted to claim right away. Karen was thinking about 62. The reason was straightforward: take it now while we know it's there, reduce what we have to pull from the portfolio. And really, that's the decision most retirees in their situation make. It's also the decision that locks them into spending less than they could for the rest of their lives. You see, Social Security isn't just a check that shows up at 62. It's a check that gets bigger the longer you wait. About 8% bigger every year, guaranteed between full retirement age and age 70. For Karen and Brian, the difference between claiming at 62 and waiting until full retirement age was roughly $1,700 a month for the rest of their lives. And the difference between 62 and 70 was closer to $3,300 a month. Over the average length of retirement, claiming early instead of waiting cost couples like them somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 in lifetime income. What we actually did, Karen would wait until her full retirement age of 67. Brian, because he had been the higher earner, would wait until 70 to maximize his benefit. That meant their portfolio would have to carry them for 7 years before they started Social Security. And they were going to pull about $115,000 a year from the portfolio during those bridge years. By the time Brian turned 70, their combined Social Security ended up providing about $7,200 a month. And adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $90,000 a year of guaranteed income for the rest of their lives. After that, the portfolio only needs to provide about $35,000 a year to hit their $10,000 a month spending target. You see, that's the first decision, and it's the biggest one. And if you're watching this really quickly and wondering how your own picture stacks up, there's a link below that if you want to schedule a call, I'd be happy to chat with you. The second decision was about which accounts to pull from during the bridge years. Most retirees default to pulling from whatever's most convenient. Their 401k, their traditional IRA. You see, that's a mistake. Those withdrawals count as ordinary income, and that income compounds against everything else they're doing in retirement. Karen and Brian had taxable investment accounts that they had built up over the years. It was money outside their retirement accounts. During the bridge years, when they had no Social Security income coming in, they were sitting in one of the lowest tax brackets that they'd ever been in. We made sure their portfolio withdrawals came from those taxable accounts first. Long-term capital gains at the lowest available rate while their ordinary income stayed low. The math on this is sort of technical, right? But the result isn't. For Karen and Brian, this decision saved them tens of thousands of dollars in lifetime taxes, money that stayed in their portfolio and kept growing instead of going to the IRS. The third decision is where the bridge years really pay off. When Karen and Brian retired, they had close to $1 million in tax-deferred 401ks, traditional IRAs, money that had grown for 35 years without being taxed. But every dollar that came out later will be taxed as ordinary income. I actually like looking at tax brackets, so I pulled the tax brackets up and the withdrawal sequence and the conversion ladder, and I had them all on one page. Because if you're not looking at them all at once, you're guessing. And here's what most retirees don't think about. Once Social Security kicks in at full retirement age, and once the required minimum distributions start at 73, their taxable income spikes back up. They're going to be in a higher tax bracket in their 70s than they are in the bridge years. So during the bridge years, while their income was low, we converted a portion of their traditional IRAs to Roth IRAs every single year. They paid the tax on that conversion at today's lower rate. And that money grows tax-free. It grows for the rest of their lives, and they'll never owe another dollar on it. And in fact, they can pass it to their kids and grandkids tax-free as well. Depending on their return, this decision alone, it projected to save them somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 in lifetime taxes. These three decisions during the bridge years, Social Security timing, tax-efficient withdrawals, strategic Roth conversions, each one moved the needle. And together, it changed what was possible. Karen and Brian could now retire at 60 and 63. They could spend $10,000 a month, and their plan would last well past either of their lifetimes. When I walked them through the full picture, all three pieces worked together. Karen said something to me. She said, "I've been afraid of the wrong thing. I never thought I'd have enough, and now I know I do." And it makes me super happy to watch a family realize that they have now the permission to live the retirement they actually planned for. It doesn't feel routine. Karen and Brian's situation isn't unusual. Most retirees come in convinced they can't afford the life they want. They run their own math, they get scared, they default to claiming Social Security early, or maybe they're just pulling from whatever account's most convenient, and they almost never think about Roth conversions. And these three decisions, like I said, they move the needle in retirement, and almost no one is making them on purpose. If you're approaching retirement, or maybe you're already in it, and you're trying to figure out whether you can afford the life you want, here's what I think you should do. Don't run the math on the portfolio alone, run it on the whole picture. Your savings, your Social Security, your tax accounts versus your tax deferred accounts, your conversion opportunities, all of it. Run it all together in the right order. And most retirees miss this right answer because they're staring at one piece of the puzzle and nobody is looking at it all at once. For Karen and Brian, the conversation took about 3 hours. It changed the next 25 years of their life. They're going to take a trip to Europe. They're going to go see their kids and grandkids. They're looking at a second home, and they're still on track for the plan to last well into their lifetimes. If any of this sounds familiar, if you're sitting on a portfolio, you're not sure you can carry the life you want, that's exactly the kind of conversation I have with families every week. The link is below the video. I'd love to chat with you. Hopefully this was helpful. Like I said, I really enjoy making these, and I'll see you on the next one.